Welcome to the Consummate Athlete Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a well-rounded, happy, goal-crushing athlete. Every week, myself, sports journalist Molly Herford, and cycling coach and kinesiologist Peter Glassford interview experts and chat through all of your training questions. We're excited to have you along for the ride. Hello. Welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. Peter, how's it going?
It's going well. We're into this fall season, or what we like to call the strength training season. We're both going at this strength stuff and trying to keep our training going. So that's both the current events and then also the topic of today's podcast.
Yes, we thought last week we talked about running in the fall, getting started running in the fall, running for cyclocross, all that stuff. But the other thing that people come to us in the fall with is, you know, the race season's over. I want to start strength training, get back to strength training. I'm sure there's a lot of people like me where you do a bit of maintenance strength kind of throughout the year. And I think that's actually really what we recommend, is never stopping strength training. For sure.
Yeah, especially because most of the people we work with are adults. I think this is true now even for elites, for development athletes, that there should be other movement in there. But you're right, we do try and keep it through the season. But the reality is, even for us, that we can say this is the best practice, but then it is hard to keep it in as cyclists and busy people when the weather's good.
Yeah, and I mean, even just race considerations, right? So, for example, everyone heard me talk about doing the La Cloche 50-mile trail a few weeks back. So the week before that, I wasn't doing strength training. The week after that, I wasn't doing strength training. We had moved the week before it, so I wasn't doing strength training. So pretty quickly, I'd gone 4 weeks with, yes, I always do my morning routine that does involve some body weight stuff, which is what I will forever beat the drum about, whatever. But my strength training itself really suffered. And I do have to say, part of this episode is a little teensy bit motivated by the fact that we now have a garage that has a squat rack. And sure. I should note that Glassford here bought the squat rack before we had even moved.
Oh yeah, it was in stock. So that's the idea, is that sometimes life opens up and you can do more of this, but we also struggle when you're traveling. I know with a lot of the elites, even though it's best practice, and I can say, oh yes, in the Olympic athletes, they would ideally be doing some strength training. It's very hard once you start spending a bunch of days on a plane and then you're at a strange hotel and then the next week you're in another continent. These people, you have to figure out something that's going to travel with you in a lot of cases, which doesn't look like the trap bar in your beautifully laid out minimalist gym that you might see on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, which I think is why I have talked so much for so many years about the morning core routine and strength routine that I have, because it's all body weight and you can do it anywhere and you can modify it to be done in an airport if you have to.
That's right. So we'll cover a couple things briefly today. We're going to keep this one short. We will say one thing that I always come back to as I think about our book, Becoming a Consummate Athlete. And I always am like, we should have put in a little routine, maybe one of these yoga routines or like what you need for a most minimal gym setup. And then we look it's actually in the book. So if you would check out our book, it is on Amazon, Becoming a Consummate Athlete. It has a lot of great practices and habits. It covers the range from sort of rough nutrition all the way through to strength training, and certainly lots of, how do you incorporate cross training and certainly bike training in there. So there is that book you can access.
Yes, and it's on Kindle Unlimited too. So really no reason not to if you have that. And before we get into it, also a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Payable. So we're now kind of starting to edge into holiday season, which means I know a lot of people end up doing donations for charities, or you're booking holiday travel for your friends and family and whatever, and you need a way to easily collect money. You don't want to set up a whole website for that kind of thing. This is where Payable comes in handy. So you're just using a Google form and the Payable add-on, and basically you can now take payments through your Google form.
And really, whatever you use a form for, you've used it in your life, whether you're filling it out or whether you're collecting whatever the information is, and then think, I probably needed money at some point for something related to that. So our club is doing the year-end event, and we need to collect money because we're going to do a dinner. And so there's no charge for the event, but then there's a dinner, and it costs whatever it costs, $10 or $20. So they can check with a couple options, vegan option, and then they check out, and we have their name, we know they're coming, which events they're going to do, and then the dinner is paid for, so that it's done, right? It's all sort of wrapped up.
Yeah, so really keeping things simple. So you can check it out over at payableapps.com. We'll include links in the show notes, and we actually have a bunch of templates to help you get started, so you can literally be up and running in about 3 minutes. Yes. It's pretty awesome. All right. And payableapps.com/athlete to get all of our favorite templates.
Okay. So with strength, it's like, why do I need to do strength? This would be like, we'll go through that and we'll sort of get a bit of what, and then sort of like, give you a bit of a routine to sort of how you could start. That's sort of our goals for today.
Side note, if you've been listening to this in 1.5 speed, I really suggest going down to like 1.15 or 1 because frankly, we're on a deadline. We have a plumber coming, and anyone who's dealt with plumbers knows that you can't keep one waiting. So the second that doorbell rings, we're out of here. So,
or if you have a small wiener dog, you also know that the door is
it's
1 hour ordeal.
ordeal.
Also, I've had 3 stovetop espressos, if I'm honest.
I didn't know about the third.
Because I found them. We had these, we just moved. I found the stovetop espressos. So there you go. So I apologize to those like myself who listen in 2 times. You may have to adjust that toggle. Try and slow it down. We are excited about strength and movement. So we want to lift weights, not to get bulky. That's one of the big concerns would be, I don't want to be, I love my power to weight and I only think about weight. I don't think about power. So I'm really stressed about getting bulky. And the reality is,
stop that.
If you look at the headlines about aging, the entire thing is you're going to lose all your muscle mass and become a puddle in the ground. So the fight against losing muscle is real. And especially as an endurance athlete, which endurance is really about breaking down. It's using and using and using. So it's very hard to put on muscle. There are the odd people. Molly has maybe been someone like that. We had Celine Yeager on talking about menopause and lifting heavy shit. And she said she was like that, but then there was a point where it became less true.
And the point she said that was the point that I just expired.
Right. And then the reality is, again, that this is good functional muscle, and we want to be someone who can absorb impacts, who can put out power, who can have a high metabolism even is related to muscle. So I just would never worry about that, especially if you're over, you're not an elite athlete, then I think that's not even a concern, but it's going to be, so it's just not going to happen in the way you think it is. So you need to start and not think about putting on bulk because it'll be magical if it happens like that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So where do we go? We've decided we need to do strength training.
Well, let's just a couple more whys that are positive. So yes, biking, you're going to push down on your cranks, or if you're a runner, when you're going up the hill, you're going to feel like a little more spring in your step as you get stronger and stronger, right? We had Dan Cleather just on a couple episodes talking a bit about this idea of like you're pushing this thing up a hill, and so if you just keep pushing it, that eventually if you get stronger, then that thing that you're pushing, it could be just your body up the hill, is going to be less as a percentage of your maximum strength. And so Dan goes really into that and has a lot of cool reasons to do strength and some of the more science around the force application. So we won't rehash that, but that would be one thing. That would be the practical or the more direct. The other thing that we think about, and this is why when you are coming into a race or you're traveling, we don't skip the strength or the movement training. Maybe we broaden this out to movement, because it's not just the lifting the heavy shit, the big trap bar in the garage that looks good on Instagram. It's also did I put my arm above the head or my head today? Did my knees go past 90 degrees, or have I only sat on a toilet and a chair today and my knees never have gone back below? That's one of the stories in our book, is a client that came to us that was told to he couldn't sit down to a toilet. Now he has a trap bar and he has the Instagram beautiful gym, and he can indeed go down below despite his past knee stuff. He just had to work away at it over time. And so this mobility, you could call it, is important. This is something that Kelly Starrett and Juliet Starrett were on from the Ready State, talking about mobility. And then yoga, we've had lots of yoga people, including Molly, over the years talking about that too. So the mobility piece, when you flip off your bike or trip on your run, do you throw out every muscle in your back and arms? Is your rotator cuff, is there some armor there when you hit the deck? Bone health would be associated with that. We know that for cyclists, the bone health is a huge issue, especially as time goes on. And so this would be a thing that builds bone. And the thing is that we have much more room to grow that, because we don't get if we were soccer players or trail runners would have a little bit more. Certainly anyone doing like big, heavier jumps, basketball players, they would have less room to improve their bone mass. But as cyclists or endurance athletes, we have a lot of room to gain. So when we go and do strength training, we're going to get more. If they measured our bone mass improvement, it would actually be more in a bunch of months. So that's an awesome thing that we can take pride in, is that this is the best medicine for us as well as cyclists who don't have weight bearing. So that's probably most of the whys. I guess reiterating that, like, if we get more muscle, metabolism comes up. So this is like a maintenance, a resisting increasing fat mass as well. This would be like the primary thing for that as you carry more muscle, metabolism is higher.
So basically, don't sleep on strength. And again, coming back to what Celine said, or that even that old like Buddhist saying where it's like the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. And, Celine was saying that about menopausal or perimenopausal women. The best time to start strength training is before you need it, because it's a lot harder to get in the routine.
That's it.
Once you've had once you've been told your bone density sucks, once you've realized that your metabolism is starting to shift on you, once you realize you can't get your arm over your head to a even greater
both rotator
degree.
Cuffs and both collarbones are ruined. You can't get your arm. You have plates in in your shoulder. Yeah.
So always a good idea to get started.
And this would resonate with anyone who's what we call an adult onset cyclist. You didn't get when you were a kid, you could just learn how to do backflips. And we're seeing what it looks like when you have kids like a Jackson Goldstone from Canada who's winning all the downhill races and still is just a very young man. It's because he's been doing 360s on his strider, literally. So he's got 15 years and he's only whatever age he is. I don't know what he is now, 16, 17, 18. So it's wild, right? But the benefit of that is big. So with strength training, if we get some movement training younger, it's going to be easier to keep including heavy squats and things. But if you are starting at 70 or 80 or 60 or 50 or 40, you have to be more cautious and get instruction, and it can certainly improve. There's lots of great stories. I just saw a woman who was 70 and she was deadlifting more than I can deadlift, but it had been a 10-year, I think she started at whatever age, 60, and now she's 70, but she can lift a fair bit of weight in a deadlift. And I think there was a great story, like she had osteoporosis and it was really painful to start, and then they just actually helped her reduce the pain from osteoporosis. So osteoporosis? Osteoarthritis. I'm sorry. OA.
And I think it does like really help you bounce back from injury faster too. I don't know that we actually listed that in the reasons to do it, but like, holy moly, if you have, strong strong shoulders, strong like chest muscles, strong back muscles, like think about how much easier it is to bounce back from a collarbone.
I would say that's my experience. Like, I crash a lot. Anyone who rides with
me,
like, I'm pretty good at biking, but I'm also so bad. And like, I crash this year. I've had 3 vicious crashes, and I would say that's a big part of it. Is just I'm able to roll, as Dan Johns talked about in past podcasts, like the importance of tumbling. So this crash has high impact, but I do think that there's a bit of armoring there as well.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked sort of like why. I think we've covered most of those. So then you were saying when should I start? So probably soon. But when we say start, what we usually do, we have a couple plans on TrainingPeaks that I'll link to. You can use the code CA25 if you want to get a bit of a strength routine embedded into your TrainingPeaks. We have one that's just the strength workouts, and you could put it on top of a biking workout carefully. Our biking program carefully, or you can take our challenge to just do strength and some walking for a month or two in the off season. Is a great thing to do if you've never done strength. We take away some of those complaints of I'm always sore in my key workouts on the bike. Well, why are there key workouts on the bike? Just make the key workouts the strength workouts for October, November, and then start back into your biking. As adults, this is completely fine. Not that you can't bike once or twice during the week when your friends are biking or something. You can still do maintenance, but you don't put the expectation on it. And then in 2 months, you're going to be adapted to that strength. You'll still have a bit of soreness after the main workout of the week, but it's not going to be that walking through the house is a challenge type soreness. So we have those 2 plans that you can get if you want as well. But we start a lot of times with 1 set of 8, maybe 2 set of 8. And then what we do is over the course of say 4 weeks, we go to 9 reps, 10 reps, 11 reps, 12 reps. And the best way to do this, if we get a bit into the how, is that you write this out. The people that I find do the best with it, they figure out a system, whether they're spreadsheet people or journal people or just in your TrainingPeaks or wherever it is. And you write push up, 1 set of 8. Pull up, 1 set of 8, and maybe it's assisted pull-ups or lat pull-downs.
I was going to say, this person is oddly really good at pull-ups.
Squat, not a lot of weight, 1 set of 8. And then next week, go in and write down 1 set of 9, and you go through, and it's not going to be miraculous, but then slowly you're doing 12 on all of these. And then when you get to 12, then we can drop it back down to 8. Maybe you take a bit of a deload week or a rest week for your strength. And then you start again, but with a little heavier weight. And then you can do it that way, and you're more and more and more.
Yeah. Again, I come back to my morning routine. It makes me think about when I first started doing it, I was doing, in the little yoga flow I have, there's like 3 sets of push-ups within it. And I remember when I first started doing it, it was 4 push-ups.
Right.
And that was a thing. And now it's 16. So now I do 50 push-ups every morning.
And push-ups is one that really responds well. Most people can really push push-ups quickly if you do that quickly but slowly, right?
That's been 10 years.
Yeah. So, but that linear method really works well. When I say linear gains, it means that like today is 8, tomorrow, or 2 days from now is 9. Friday you're going to do whatever, right? 1 more, and then you go 1 more, 1 more. Not everything in life works like that, and there is a point where that linear gain stops. So you're not a beginner anymore, but most of us are beginners with strength. So probably for seasons, we could almost do linear gains where we start at a reasonable or even low weight and gradually build. So that's the key thing to get started, is like almost just start with body weight on the squat. So no weight on the squat, just you up and down, working on range of motion and form, maybe a light bar, like not even a full Olympic bar for most people. And then again, a little bit more. And I'm talking maybe 2.5 pounds a session type thing.
Yeah, I really like the idea of starting like so light that it almost feels offensive the first strength workout you do. Like it should feel so easy that you're just kind of prancing away from it like it was nothing. Right. Because I think the mistake that, and I raise my hand here because this is definitely me. The mistake that many of us make is we want to get into strength and we go ham the first time we do it because it feels good, right? Like it feels exciting to be able to lift more than the bar. It feels exciting to like eke out that, it feels exciting to like eke out that pull up or whatever. And like, unfortunately, that's how we end up being really sore the next day or 2 days later even. Mm-hmm. And then we're just like, okay, strength isn't for me. I'm done. This is dumb.
So it's almost better. Like I would love if you were like away right now on vacation or on a business trip or something like that, or just don't
I thought you meant you'd love if I was away right now.
I'd love if Molly just wasn't here.
Jeez.
And so you're in your hotel room and it's what could a strength workout look like there, right? So you got push-ups. You'll be fine. So just try whatever you can do, whether your hands are up on the bed or on a chair. You start there. I would say everyone should probably start there unless you do a lot of push-ups already. 1 set of 8. And then squat. No weights added, just up and down, 1 set of 8. And then you could do just whatever the thing you can see in the room. So I don't know what it would be. What would be something that would be in a kettle or something? Like you row that. So you bring your thumb to your armpit. You're held in the kettle. You bend over. You put your hand on the bed or on the chair, and you bring your thumb to your armpit. That's a bent over row. Sort of like you're starting a lawnmower, a little bit like that sort of motion. So that's like a row. And then we do something like a deadlift. So your legs stay a little bit straighter. Some people do like a 1-leg Romanian deadlift, and that's like a tipping bird. I'm trying to think, what would that motion be like? Like, what would people sort of like, if you think about a figure skater sort of like cruising along on one leg and they look like a T, that would be like sort of like a 1-legged Romanian deadlift. That's a very common way that people start, but it could be something like a hamstring curl on a ball or a glute raise. So maybe that's an easy one to do. So we could put our feet up on the chair. We're laying on the ground on our back and we lift our hips off the ground. So that would be like a glute raise or a hip thrust, something like that. That's a great one for the butt, for the hip muscles, the back of the body. And that's sort of what we're thinking. We're thinking push and a pull. So that's push would be the front body. So that's your push up. Pull would be like that bent over row. So a pull for the upper body and then a push and a pull for the lower body. That's our squat is the push, the deadlift or something for the back of the body for your butt, for your hamstrings. That would be the pull. And then we usually include a bit of core or crawling. And then often we'll also do carrying. So you lift up a heavier weight and you carry it, or you hug your backpack, your suitcase to your chest, or just do a suitcase carry. If you're in the what's this? Not the hotel. I guess the hotel or the airport, you could carry a suitcase on one side that's heavy. This is a heavy bag of groceries. That's a heavy suitcase carry. Great. Great for the low back, great for the grip, posture muscles. So there's sort of those 6. You could add another sort of vertical push and pull. So that'd be like overhead press and pull-up would be like a vertical push-pull for the upper body. But for a lot of people, just even doing something for the upper body that's a push and something that's a pull to start is enough. And then you can start with 2 and then you could do 4. So does that make sense? There's sort of those 6 motions they talk about.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing with that is how you just described it. That's stuff that you can do A, with minimal equipment, but then B, like really without a lot of fear of like messing it up horribly. Because I was going to say, if you are going to start heavier or you do want to start going to the bar or anything like that, if you're new to this,
You mean like the Olympic bar, not
the Olympic bar,
not like Cheers.
Yeah,
we're watching Cheers right now.
If you, oh God, now I'm going to go on Frasier jokes. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, we're running out of time, so I can't, no Frasier jokes. I was going to say, if you do want to go to the gym to lift weights, then I do think it is worth enlisting the help of a professional, even just once, just to get the motions right. Like I'll say, I haven't done deadlifts in a really long time. So I've been back into strength. I've been doing deadlifts again. And after one session, I was like, okay, Peter, you're going to have to come out and just make sure that I'm doing them correctly. And I was like mostly getting it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The thing is, it's very easy to accidentally work the wrong muscles or do things that are ineffective, inefficient, just not doing the right thing that you're actually trying to do with a lot of these movements.
And that's the tough thing with using light weights often is that you can really do anything.
100%.
So some of it is like, if you can get some help and get some guidance, then sometimes we can increase the weight a little bit, decrease the reps so that the total load of the session is higher, just so there's a little bit of enforcement. But also a coach could set up, like I made you move ahead so your shins were right against the bar. And then we have like, there's some limits, there are constraints that are sort of like pushing you into, no, you have to do it this way. But yeah, just checking the major, like, does this look gross? Someone's back really arching and moving during a deadlift or something like that, right?
And that's something you've even done with clients is like, you can set up video with them and actually like check in on
we have
their
kinesiology consults. So that's what usually that is either someone's injured and we look at stuff and some exercises together, or it's like, I want to learn how to do a squat. Can you watch me do a squat? And I can watch it on the video. And yeah, that's a great use of a kinesiology consult. It's with today's technology, you just put your phone on FaceTime or whatever. So people are always worried about bulking up. We talked about that. It's not going to happen. Like, it's well worth it if it does happen, but that's a great thing if it happens. So shift the mindset. Powerful. We want to be powerful and strong. People don't track their strength. We talked a little bit about that, but you need to have some way to see progress. People drop out of strength because they don't really see the progress. And if you're not seeing progress, that's another good reason to get help with a plan or just check on your program and what you're doing. And maybe it is just you need to push a bit harder or eat a bit more or whatever the situation is. And then this last one we just talked about. What's this thing we just talked about? The equipment,
getting help, you mean?
The soreness, the form. So sometimes we feel like we're incompetent, right? It's maybe a strong word, but
ouch,
we don't have competence in the movement. I just don't think I'm doing it right. And I hear that all the time, and then I just don't do it. And maybe that's even safe and protective. Like at some point, don't do it. You can always shift the motions though, right? There's a million exercises that fall into that push-pull, upper body, lower body thing that I'm talking about. So I always say, if you know push-up, great. If you know overhead press, if you remember bicep curls from thing, if you lunges we didn't even talk about. So it's just whatever you know, start there. And you can always research and ask for help and get like 2 more to add. And I think that's fantastic. Molly started with her yoga routine plus a push-up and plus like a squat or something. And you just added difficulty over time. So in that way that like if you're a yogi, start there. If you love core burners, start with a core burner, but try and add a bit more legs in there to make it a little more full body. And if you do have a strength training pass, just start slow, right? So I think that's it. I think we've linked to most of those things. We covered why you should do it, briefly like some exercises to do with it, and then common complaints. So hopefully that's enough. If you do have follow-up questions about strength and how to incorporate it, we didn't talk about a few things. So people can always follow up and we can get specific on incorporating that into the schedule and other important questions.
Yep. So hit us up over at consummateathlete.com or at consummateathlete on Instagram. And with that, happy training. We're going to go get the plumber in and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. If you want to hear more training, racing, and endurance sport advice, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at consummateathlete.com for a weekly dose of inspiration and advice straight to your inbox.